Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Magicians, as well as the season premiere of The 100. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I talk about each of the respective shows I'm talking about. So for example, if you don't want to hear what I have to say about this week's episode of The Magicians, you can just skip to what I had to say about the season premiere of The 100. But first, let's get into what happened in The Magicians this week. So obviously, the group goes back to Brakebills, and they talk with Henry, Dean and everything. They end up finding out that they basically pieced it together because of the book, that basically there were people, because the book was from like 1893 or something like that, so there have been Brakebill students before them that went to Fillory and became, royalty so that they could have access to the armory. So they're the ones that took the books. And basically because basically this is all access to battle magic, obviously powerful battle magic to help them fight the beast. Well, the problem is that the dean, well, not just the dean, yes, the dean in particular, I'm sure other people had their own say in the whole situation, was basically outlawed battle magic. There was one person in particular, there was a teacher that used to work there named Big B, who was a big advocate being like, no, that's stupid, you're going to regret this eventually in the future. And a very interesting thing about Big B, she wasn't just any regular old teacher, she was a pixie, in particular a 500-year-old pixie. And I like, obviously we get to meet her in the episode, and I really like her personality, because straight from the beginning, Henry doesn't beat around the bush. She's like, yeah, she kind of doesn't like humans. She thinks humans are stupid, and she just enjoys, like, the whole situation is that basically they had to solve riddles to try and track all this stuff down. Like even having to make anagrams, look through a whole bunch of assortments of books in the library. Because at first, the way he was talking to the teacher, Sunderland, I kept messing that up, but Sunderland, like, every time he kept talking to her, I was almost thinking, like, oh, she's actually Big B, and she just doesn't remember or realize that she is. But it's like, no, it's just he talked to her in particular because she knows the most about the library. Side note, it showed you just how little people know about what the hell is going on, because even she's like, oh, Fillory's real? Oh. Like, she's kind of not in the know about anything. I mean, granted, no one in the school is, because all four of them came back, with the exception of Eliot, obvious. And they're like, holy crap, and a student walks into, I think it was Quentin and Alice, and he was like, so, is it true? Is Fillory real? And they're just kind of like, it's almost like they're celebrities in this. Obviously, they dive into it too much, but it's like, yo, they're the ones that were off in Fillory. And it's like, oh, dude, Fillory, a place from a book, it's actually real and everything. And I love the fact is they ran into Josh, and, the fact is, Penny wanted to kind of hit him, but he couldn't because of the hands and everything. And then next best thing was kicking him in the nuts for leaving like he did. Like I said, it's something they brought up at the beginning of the episode, because they were like, yeah, because Quentin originally said, like, yeah, it was kind of fucked up for them to leave, but at the same time, it's like, can't really blame them. It's kind of like they're kind of marching on a death, battle against the beast, and there's no guarantee that they'd win, and it's like there's no guarantee that they'd be helpful. I mean, granted, it probably would have been helpful if they were there. I'm very curious to see if Victoria will pop up, because even Josh is like, he doesn't know where Victoria is. Like, once they got back, like, Victoria kind of popped off, so she could still be here somewhere on Earth, or she can be in a different world for all he knows. Which Penny's like, I kind of understand, because basically, the beast still being out there means, she was his captain for such a long time. There's no way in hell she's ever going to let that happen again. So she's probably not even going to stay in one place for long. She's just always going to be constantly moving. Getting back to what I was kind of bringing up earlier, was the fact is that she just made them do a lot of stuff. And I like her personality too when she got introduced. And the fact is that she's just all over Henry, just like, it almost seemed like he was under a spell to just how quickly he almost got sidetracked with things and was kind of focused on the fact that she's kissing him and everything. I mean, Henry, kind of left out the whole situation about him and Big B kind of having a thing back in the past and everything. And she's just, she's very arrogant to the point, obviously because she thinks she's better than humans and everything. So it's just like, basically it almost seemed like when they were trying to plead their case to her to basically help them and everything, it seemed like they kind of had to play to her ego. It's like, yeah, if it wasn't for you, you saved, basically you changed the tides of history and stuff like that. She's like, yeah, I mean, I've done it a couple times and everything. But there were multiple points where she would kind of lose focus and then focus on Henry, because to her, this whole situation it's irrelevant to her. You would think, being possibly a magical creature, like the whole concept of like magic being sucked dry everywhere is kind of something you'd be kind of like, worried about. Because magic disappearing in Fillory from the well isn't just for Fillory, it's for every world, because Fillory's like spring, the well is the source of magic. I always thought it was kind of like, Well, no, because Fillory was like the beginning of it all. Because at first, like it like started off, energy exploded and basically became Fillory. So Fillory is the centerfold. So magic disappearing from Fillory would, in fact, basically mean magic disappears from everywhere else. But basically, the only, because I brought it up last episode, I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, oh, does Alice still have her abilities? Which I'm a complete and utter idiot because I forgot about the fact that she gave herself that little thing that as long as she's touching it, if it starts hurting, that means the god power is waning away, which it's slowly starting to wane away. So basically, she has very little time. She has to do whatever she has to do. Basically, the battle magic spell that she's doing is a very powerful one that will kill the beast no matter how powerful he is. That even in this state, Alice is still stronger than him. But basically, it's a blast radius type of attack. So no one better be near the beast when that happens, or they'll be killed too. Alice, because she's still got some of the juice, I feel weird every time I say that. She can survive it, but no one else can. I mean, obviously we know that because it's like, oh, she can die and come back temporarily, because depending on how this all plays out. But kind of tying this in, we had Quentin kind of like, I'm gonna shift over to what happened with Martin and Julia, because Quentin actually went to warn her against, I'm sure some would argue like his better judgment, he went and warned her, which, obviously he didn't let anyone know. But the thing is, like, it's a situation where it's kind of like, it's a bad gray area. I mean, like, they both are right in the situation. It's like the beast needs to be stopped, and also does Renard. Because for like Quentin, it's like, yo, we need to take out the beast. Like, that's a big problem. It's like with your whole situation with Renard, it's like, yeah, it's a terrible thing he did to you, but that's out of revenge. And she's like, but the fact of the matter is he's going around killing people, but I guess that doesn't matter to you too. It's like, isn't everything you're doing out of revenge too? And it's kind of like, like I said, there's benefits to what they're both saying. Like both Renard and the beast should be taken care of because they're both very dangerous beings that shouldn't be left to kind of turn devices. I really want to know what the hell Renard's up to with all these hedge witches he's killing. Because in this episode, because basically the beast has got he's getting Julia set up to summon, like basically get the right stuff together to summon him, basically the right kind of summoning circle essentially. But it's like, try to mask it a little bit because he knows it's you. So basically, she can't be the one to summon him, or he's going to figure it out. Because I mean, he is a fox, and they're, just kind of like mythologically are considered very tricky, and that's kind of what his whole situation is anyway. But so the person he decides to get involved, the person he decides to use as bait Martin decides to use is Morena. Morena's super not cool with this because it's like, I mean, she's freaked out more so than anything because it's like, she knows even as powerful as she is, she can't like go toe to toe with a god. I mean, granted, we don't even know if she ever actually even put up much resistance against Martin, or did Martin just completely catch her by surprise, or did she actually try to fight Martin, but he quickly and easily overpowered her? So obviously, I mean, for one, it's messed up to say, but honestly, she doesn't want to get involved in it because it's like her situation in one of two ways: either be like Julia or end up like every other hedge witch. Which she calls another big time hedge witch because it's like, yeah, I know we said we'd stay our separate ways, but it's like, for this situation, we got to come together. Goes to that particular hedge witch. She's already dead. And what I find most interesting about that circumstance is that she turned to the one place that she felt like she couldn't go. She had no choice but to go to, and that was Brakebills. And she wanted Dean Henry to like protect her and everything, but he was like, no. It's like, at one point in time, you were one of my greatest students, but that's because I didn't realize at that time I was more focused on strength and not realizing, like, oh, another thing has to be considered, and that's character. And it's like, that's what defines a true magician. So basically, those are about out in the code. It's like, keep all your memories, and hopefully some of it can help you survive. It's like, yes, it's a dick move, but it's like, she's done a lot of stuff, even subsequently. Like, we know the little bit that she's done, like she did back in season 1 with Julia basically messing with Quentin to get inside the school and everything. But it's like, who's to say she hasn't done other stuff as well? And it's a situation where, to him, he's protecting the students that matter, and she no longer matters. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad. Like, in a situation like this, you would think he would be a little more open-hearted to it. Like, makes you wonder what exactly did she do that was so disappointing that he turned her his back, that he would be willing to turn his back on her, even to this extent. Because I would like to kind of have gotten the rest of everyone else. I thought we were going to get everyone else's input on it, and like maybe have Quentin be like, yo, maybe we could use her. Like, we could use her help. She's powerful and everything. But I mean, at the end of it all, she decides to kind of, because she has nowhere to go, because it's not like she can be safe out there on her own with Renard going around killing hedge witches for whatever, like I said, whatever purposes he's trying to do. So she decides to join up with Julia. And like, once again, I brought it up last episode, and I feel like I have to bring it up again. Like, we really get a sense of Martin's personality. Like, the fact is, he's literally singing the entire episode like he's on top of the world and everything, still asking to pull out Julia's shade. Now, last episode, I really couldn't find the right word. Obviously, I kind of skated around it, like, because I got the context of what a shade was, but I kind of let it slip, like, what it was exactly. Basically, at the end of the day, your shade is basically your humanity. It's what makes you you. It's kind of the part of him that he killed off to make himself the way he is. So, still wanted to remove that for Julia, but still, like, since but it's just like I said, it's so interesting. You get to see him like he's like the big bad beast is up here having fun and just kind of like, oh, but then at the same time it's like, oh, you can't forget all the stuff that he did back in season 1, breaking the Dean's hands, doing what he did to his eyes, trying to brutally murder everyone, in particular Quentin. So it's like, you can't deny that. I mean, he's had people captured. He had Victoria chained up in a dungeon. He's basically killed a lot of people. He sucked magic dry from Fillory. So it's kind of like, But it's so interesting. He's just like, he's got that charming side of him. He's just like, oh, tapping, dancing around, just having so much fun. It's like, oh, aren't all three of us going to go off and kill a god? And you're just staring at him just like, it's like, because it shatters your immersion, because it's like, this is the beast that everyone's scared of, the dude that has powers that can rival a god, this guy. And I think that's what just makes it that much more better, that much more better. That's not grammatically correct. I think that's just what makes it better, is that he's like that. He's not your typical villain because it's like, because we got that little peek at him a little bit at the end of the first season. Obviously, the first season actually kind of set it up, his personality a little bit. The fact is that he's always just kind of like doing that little stepping dance of his anytime he would like pop up or do something. He obviously constantly does it now. It's just kind of his thing. It does make you wonder where did that come from. But nevertheless, it's kind of interesting, like the whole Julia and Quentin situation, because it's like, obviously they were tight, then they kind of fell apart at season 1, then at the end they kind of got back together, and then they fell apart again because her kind of betraying him, because she did kind of, interestingly enough, refer to him as like, yeah, my friends will stop, like, kind of like handle whatever situation. It's like, and then you had had Martin being like, oh, phew, it's funny you calling them your friends. You're definitely not your friends now after what you've done. Out of anyone, Quentin would be, because he cares about Julia and she's important to him and everything. So obviously he's going to be he'd be a lot quicker to forgive her than everyone else would be. But like I said, it's so interesting that they're at odds again. And even when, as far as she's like, oh, you can go ahead and kill Renard, but the moment you do, I will be coming at, like, don't ever cross my path again, because it will be terrible for you. And Quentin's like, dude, I'm literally warning you, trying to save your life, and you're threatening me. So it's just kind of like, and it's understandable. Like, I think Quentin's trying to be delicate. It's a situation where it's like, you want to be delicate, but at the same time it's like, yo, but we need to really handle this before everyone gets screwed over by this. But it's a situation where it's like, you can't deny, like, you wouldn't, like, if you were in Julia's situation, you'd be the same way. It's like, no, first let him help me get my revenge, and then we can kill him. That's all I'm asking for, is a little time. But the sad thing is, they're running out of time, because if they don't do this soon enough, Renard's not taken care of. That means Alice won't, because obviously the power's running away. So once it drains away, I mean, in Julia's mind, she thinks the blade's going to be around. It's like, obviously the blade's, once it's all said and done, like, I know Martin's, like, obviously he's working around a loophole. I mean, hell, for all we know, he's probably not even under her control. Like, for all we know, that Leo Blade may not even do anything to him. Maybe he just enjoys, like, playing along with her because he wants her by his side, because he sees her potential and he wants to kind of make her like him. That's why he keeps bringing up the shade thing. It's like, he's staying and pretending like he's her prisoner just so she can let her guard down. And when it's all said and done, he's like, yeah, I've been playing along with you this entire time. It does make you wonder, is there a part of him that is afraid of Renard? I mean, really, he talks about the fact that he has no beef with Renard, so he really would rather just stay out of his way, because it's just more of an annoyance. I mean, he did kill, was it Ember? So, it's not like he can't kill gods, so it's not like he fears gods or anything like that. when you're as powerful as him, it does make you wonder, is there anything at all that you really do for you? That's why I'm wondering, is even the Leo blade really a thing? Maybe at one point in time it was, but who's to say that Julia didn't get tricked, and maybe at the very beginning of the season he actually switched the blades out and she never realized it, that she's been carrying a fake the entire time. Just something to think about. There's a whole, obviously Penny dealing with this whole hand situation. Him and Sunderland getting closer. That was already something that was kind of, Penny was kind of suggestive. It's kind of like after the whole Katie situation. He was kind of like getting all like, ooh, yeah, Southern. But she's very professional. Like, it does seem like she, especially that, like, it got brought up in season 1, she was just kind of like, almost like quaking in her boots type of situation. But basically, she's doing a spell to basically help him with his hands. She's rubbing some kind of like something on his hands, and he's just like, how's that? And he's like, ooh, that feels good. He's like, could you rub it on my shoulder? I'm pretty tense and everything. She's like, what shoulder? He's like, both. And he's just kind of getting into it and everything. He's like, I wish I could, I feel kind of bad. She's like, why? He's like, well, you're doing all the work and I'm not doing anything. She's like, I kind of like it this way and stuff like that. He's like, I could do something for you. And she's like, really? He's like, yeah. And they're about to kiss and everything. And she's like, after you graduate. It's like, ooh, you're a tease. But at least you can admit, it's like, hey, she's being professional. She's trying to be in a position where it's like, this way I don't have any kind of position or control over you. It's like, yo, we're 2 consenting adults out of the school educational system just doing our thing. So that's going to be interesting, which, does beg the question, like, where is Katie? Like, the last time we saw her, I mean, like I said, it's only like the 2nd episode. I hate when I say that, like, oh, like I said, like, you didn't say that, so there's no reason to say that. And under that, in that particular situation, I've done it multiple times. I catch myself doing it, but I just, nevertheless, the point is, like, the last time we saw her was during season 1's finale. But granted, this is only like the 2nd episode. But I'm curious to see if she will pop up. Like, where's she at right now? I'm sure she's on the run. I mean, I won't know if she'd be considered a hedge witch. Like, why specifically hedge witches is it that he's killing? And would Katie count? I mean, because she's kind of connected to that whole Marina situation, but I don't know if she'd be classified. I mean, she was there and she did get away, so maybe Renard would come after her simply for that. I mean, who's to say? And then another thing in this episode, gotta love it, is Eliot. He's basically trying to be king and everything. And basically, Finn, his wife is being like, maybe you should, do. She's like, I don't want to speak out of turn. He's like, go ahead. He's like, I'm not trying to run like a cult here. I want you to speak your mind, especially anyone out of anyone. You should, you're kind of queen to the high ruling king. So basically, she tells him that there's a lot of problems. That basically, he's like, I'm trying to help things here and there, and she's like, we're starving. He's like, really? Apparently, Fillory ran on everything on magic. To anyone that's, it's kind of diverging and kind of turning into another, nerdy topic. But if anyone's ever played the game Magna Carta 2, it kind of seems like The Magicians kind of has a similar story. Like, it's kind of spoiling the Magna Carta 2, but nevertheless, just kind of a situation where it's just kind of like everything was done a certain way. Like, essentially, there's kind of a similar thing to magic in Magna Carta 2 that basically it helped with everyday lives, especially growing crops. And it seems like that's the case in The Magicians, to the point like people don't know how to do anything otherwise. Even farmers, it's like you're a farmer and you don't know how to farm. You know how to farm along with magic. And so Eliot has to tap into that part of himself that he doesn't want to tap into. Because remember, Eliot went through a lot of stuff. Like, he brought that up. He told that to Quentin back in season 1. He went through a lot to erase his past. No, it wasn't Quentin. It was Mike he told that to. The fact is that he went through a lot of trouble to make himself appear to be someone that he's not. The only people that know is Margot. I mean, obviously Mike, but then Margot's the only one. And now Finn, she knows, because you just see him almost so disgusted with having to remember his life. It's like, just like, doing the things that he did, having to drink goat's milk, the smell of hay, and just like, you almost see him like, almost having to swallow back his vomit. And my favorite thing was the whole, I can only assume, I could be completely wrong, but he was setting up an orgy situation where it's kind of like, she's like, oh, we'll do anything. And he's like, oh, anything, huh? And then basically they're standing there. She's like, I don't understand why this is, dude, there's some dudes, some girls just standing there naked and everything. It's like, what? Come on, this is fun and everything. And she's like, this is essentially being like, this is debauchery. This is messed up. She's like, am I not enough? He's like, yeah, you're good for, being you, but this is something else. It's like, oh, we can do our thing. They can be there. We can watch them. They do their thing. Just like legitimately an orgy. And he's like, come on, like they're okay with this. You guys are okay with this, right? And everyone's like, yeah. He's like, see? And she's like, you're the high ruling king. Of course they say yes to you. And she's basically guilting him into it. He's just like, all right, guys, just go ahead. Even though you guys look so good naked, it's just like, just go on. And then they kind of had their moment, but then it's kind of like, you kind of pick up later and it's like, oh yeah, he didn't kind of rise to the occasion. And he's like, I'll apologize for that. Obviously, I'll kind of vent my frustrations in a different manner later on, but essentially doing the farming thing, remembering everything, he ends up helping them. And he's like, so guys, I want you to basically use this on the crops and everything, and that being manure, because they didn't even know about that. And it's like, yeah, take this, the royal, he's like, take our kingdom's dung and just, do your thing, and just quickly got out of there as fast as he could, because everyone's just, so it just, like, that was so interesting that it took that take on that, like, just getting that side of him ruling and everything. A side note is that basically, Julia brought it up and she ended up telling Quentin about it. And basically, there's some kind of situation with the throne, because essentially Martin being kind of a petty douchebag, after like Ember wouldn't let him take his throne back, I guess because he became who he is now, probably a little less than who he is now, but still on his path to becoming the Beast essentially. And so he couldn't get his throne back anymore. So basically he did something. He was super vague about it. But basically it's kind of like a test or a trial or something. I know magicians have to do with a lot of tests and trials, don't they? Well, I don't know. I mean, granted, that might just be my own brain putting test and trial. Maybe he never actually said that. I'm not trying to quote him or anything. But basically, he was like, basically, it essentially ends with everyone failing it because no one's passed it. And essentially, it ends up killing any of the royals. So it kind of means that Eliot's head's on a chopping block. Obviously, like, they're going to warn him because they actually made it back to Fillory at the end of it all. I'm sure he's still going to keep it quiet about what I don't know. I mean, Quentin's probably not going to tell the others what he knows, mainly because it would mean acknowledging the fact that he met with Julia. So it's kind of a big no-no and everything. Also, that whole situation was a Keiko demon. I really like that. Basically, he brought up some alcohol and he's like, oh, so I need you all to get super drunk and everything. He's like, and Quentin's like, really? It's like, oh yeah, for this next part, you're going to need that. Essentially got these markings on their back. And essentially these markings act as kind of a seal for a Keiko demon. It's like a one-off attack, so they're very powerful. It's basically they're supposed to act as a decoy until like they're able to actually, Alice is ready to activate the spell. So it's like, but then it does beg the question: why are they back in the Fillory? Is it connected to that? I don't know. I feel like I missed that. I don't remember exactly why they're back in Fillory. Not unless they're trying to draw the Beast to Fillory and make it so that they have a much more clear area to attack them, I can only assume. I mean, not unless Quentin did tell the others that he found out about the whole Eliot situation, not unless he lied about it. I don't know. We just kind of have to wait till next episode to kind of find out like where everything goes in this situation. And now moving on to the season premiere of The 100. This episode literally picks up right where season 3's finale ended. Like, Allie's just been destroyed, the City of Light's been destroyed, and now they're kind of set free. But now you have, it's a very somber moment. Because, like, obviously from the little bit I've seen of it this season, I was like, okay, I kind of went into it having certain expectations, and they met them. I kind of figured that's where the storyline was going to be, is that basically, it's like they come together and then they're divided again. That everyone is divided. And this time it's actually worse. I mean, for one, it's the whole, like, well, the radiation and those nuclear, like, the radiation is going to be in such a level that it's going to kill even Sky Crew, because they have radiation resistance. But even the amount that's going to be pumped out is going to kill them. It's going to wipe out everyone on Earth. So it's that, but also because everyone is super pissed at everyone else. Tree Crew is pissed at Sky Crew because a lot of people didn't make it back from this City of Light. So a lot of people you see from Tree Crew are dead around the town, and everyone's blaming. At first, it's kind of Clark, because she's the one that kind of killed the City of Light and everything. But at the same time, it's also just Sky Crew in general, because it's like because technically Allie came from their technology and stuff like that. I mean, because that's a big thing too. Is like, I'm sure this season's really going to heavily be like, it's going to be heavily redemption for everybody, especially Bellamy and Thelonious, because it's like he's the one I'd be like when he looks at this, it's like, what have I done? It's like he's the one that kind of sparked all this. He went searching for the City of Light and he brought it back with him, and it caused this whole situation. A lot of people died on all sides. I mean, it's like when you like I forgot. I like just thinking about. I was like, holy crap! I forgot just how many people died last season, and not even just like just regular people. Even main characters. Quite a few main characters that died last season too. So that was just something to kind of keep in mind. But on top of that, already the divided Sky Crew and the Tree Crew. On top of that, we have the Ice Nation stepping in, and the girl. I think her name is Echo. The woman who betrayed Bellamy, like they got out of like the mountains, like I forgot what the place was called. From the place from season 2, I forgot what it was actually called. But essentially, he got her out. They kind of helped each other get out, and basically met up again. And she betrayed them, and basically led to like a lot of their people getting killed. Like she basically forced her hands. Like basically, she kind of helped push the situation to be where it got to where Pike took control, even making Bellamy switch allegiances, almost like turning against Grounders because of everything. He lost the person that he was in love with, and just as well as other people, and it just made him mad because he'd always been very. I mean, it's always interesting because, like I said, Bellamy's character always bounces back and forth. Because at the beginning he was like, screw Grounders, but then eventually he came to the point where it was like, no, Grounders are cool, we're fine. Like this whole trying to work out peace and everything, and then it turns back into kind of war again because of what happened. It's like. She blames Bellamy, being like, oh yeah, that this is basically because bloodshed. I mean, because she talks to Bellamy and is basically like, things can never go back to the way they were before. Like, the fact is that she wishes things could have been a little bit different, but she was following orders and everything. And it's just, essentially, the Ice Nation is planning to wipe everyone out and just take control of everything. No more like, Tree Crew having its divisions, and as well as, the 13 different groups that make up the Tree Crew. And that, well, it's 12, but then, Sky Crew always want, the point was to have Sky Crew recognized as 13, kind of whole thing Lexus set up and everything. So basically, they have to prepare for war, and then Clark eventually, well, she doesn't tell everyone, she only tells a select few people. Raven knows, but then she told Monty and then Jasper, which, really quickly talk about Jasper's story. Man, is that depressing as hell. He was legitimately going to kill himself, even laid out little tarp and everything to catch the blood and everything. He was ready to do it until Monty came knocking at his door. He even left him a note about saying what we don't really know, but it's like, I was wondering what he was going to do with that gun, because basically, because that's a big thing too. Everyone's getting their emotions back. Everything's hitting everyone all at once, especially in Raven's case, because the pain from her leg is also coming back too. So, but really quickly, Jasper brought up something interesting about Raven. The fact is that she's able to read that code, be able to do what she was doing. It's like, you're not even a coder yet, you're doing that. It seems like Allie did something to your brain. She upgraded your brain, and it's like, that is something kind of interesting. Because it never crossed my mind to think, like, I don't know, I guess I just assumed this is like, you're a little more tech savvy than Grounders and stuff like that, so obviously you know a little bit more, so I thought, like, okay, that explained why you're a little more techy. But it's just like being able to do the extent of stuff that she's able to kind of look through the code and everything. It's like, I don't know. I mean, Raven was already very smart, but then I guess whatever Allie did added more to it. Whether that's going to be a good thing or not, we'll just kind of have to wait to see. I mean, I don't know. That might turn out to be something extremely bad in the end. But going back to Jasper, the fact is that moment he found out from Raven about this whole situation, he got actually excited. Everyone's looking at him and he's laughing, and he's like, what the hell is wrong with you? He pulls out the gun he took and he puts it down. He's like, oh, I'm going to go outside and just enjoy the fresh air. Because for him, he legitimately gave up, but then finding out, it's like, oh man, the world's going to end anyway, we're all going to die. Oh, and I don't even, because I don't even have to worry about killing myself, he just like, I don't even have to worry about making that mess and stuff like that, or leaving a note describing saying, sorry to Monty or something for doing this, but it's like, no, I don't even have to feel apologetic about it, because the world's going to end and there's nothing we can do about it. It's like, oh man, he's so on top of it. It's sad. Jasper hasn't, obviously last season showed you, Jasper has not been the same. And just this whole situation, he's just worse. It seems like you were kind of hoping that Jasper would get better, but it does seem like he's just as in bad situation as he was. And it's something that people try to beat into his head last season. It's like, you're not the only one who lost people. I mean, look at Monty. Monty's mom is dead. He ended up having to kill her to stop her. But you don't see him kind of going off the way he's going. But at the same time, it's like different people handle grief at different ways. I mean, Monty has someone to kind of, ease his pain and stuff. Jasper's kind of all alone. I mean, he's not alone, but just because it's like nothing really matters to him, just because it's like after what he lost back in season 2, it's just kind of like, obviously there's always the point that there's nothing left. But like I said, I feel like we've really taken a step forward of being like, holy crap, Jasper's officially lost it just because of that. So, but going back to what I was saying, like, other than them, Abby knows, Kane knows, not 100% sure if Thelonious knows. I kind of get, because he was in on that plan, which I'll kind of get to in a second. So I assume that he might be in on it as well. Octavia and Indra are in on it too. So, but the thing was, I know I'm all over the place. I apologize. The situation with the Ice Nation is like they have their right. They're like, the fact is, this City of Light kept us from wanting war and everything, but it's like now that the City of Light is going, we want war back because it's like it's only fair because it's like, I mean, for Bellamy, he can't forgive the Ice Nations, in particular Echo, because of all that happened. Like I said, like legitimately, Bellamy became the person he was last season, working with Pike and everything, because of that incident that Echo caused. So. And she even all the audacity to be like, so could we ever trust each other again? And Bellamy's like, I don't think so. I was like, really? Would you really think he trusts you? He trusted you before, like, and then you ended up betraying him and killing people, and also someone he cares about too. So I was like, that forgiveness isn't going to come easy. Because even Kane had to tell him, it's like, I know you've got history with Echo, but it was like, keep that, together while we basically run this plan together. Which that plan was sick. I was like, oh man, surrender, because I was wondering what Clark was going to do, like a whole surrender thing, and I kind of saw a smaller crossover. It's like, oh, do you have a plan? But it's like you see Thelonious dropping off what is Antari's body. It's like, okay, that's like, oh, they're surrendering. I was like, okay. And it turns out it's a trap. It's Octavia inside. And she does a sick move, just slicing those dudes' legs and then stabbing them and turning around and spearing the dude in the mouth. What sells it even more is just the fact is Octavia is just so used to, like, the fact is it kind of shows you who they are too. Like everything that's happened, that the moment it happens, like just Octavia just kind of shrugs it off. And then you have like Clark just tending to Rowan because it's like he's their best chance in this whole situation. But the moment Abby gets in the room, she looks at that and just kind of like, and then she kind of looks at Octavia, and Octavia's like, well, he's there, your patient's there, go help him. So it's just kind of a situation. It's something that Abby's, slowly had to kind of get used to, especially when she found out about some of the stuff that Clark has done and the stuff that Clark's had to live with. The fact is that, it's just like they aren't kids anymore. They've coming here to Earth on their own has changed them drastically. Over everything that's happened to them, they're not the same people that they were when they were originally on the but granted, they have a very interesting, like, she had a very interesting Echo, because, like, Echo was like, okay, we will wipe you out, but we will give the children a chance to run. I was actually kind of surprised by that, because as we know, Antari, to get her position as commander last season, she wiped out all the other potential commander, who could take the flame, and they were all kids. So it's like, obviously she didn't care about stuff like that when it came to power and everything and control. But it's like, for her Echo to be, I don't know, I guess it shows you a slight difference between her. Like, it seems like Antari was kind of on her own in that mentality. I mean, granted, I guess it kind of seems like that mentality is probably something that she shared with the Ice Queen as well. But obviously the whole situation is like, Rowan ends up getting up, and it's like, okay, Rowan, help us out. He's like, why would I help you out? This situation, I'm shot because of you and everything. Basically, every time he was with Clark, basically things get sucky, and he even brings that up to her. And basically she tells him about the whole situation, and it's like, for him, Rowan is kind of like, obviously he's not sure if he believes her. Obviously the similar circumstance happened in the past. He's like, our ancestors survived, we'll survive this. And Clark being like, no, you won't, we will all die. It's like, granted, we don't even know if we'd be able to find a way out of this. We have 6 months. There's no guarantee we ever be able to fix this situation. But it's like, at least we can do is try. But it's like, if you don't let us live and, basically take us under your wing, make us part of the make us part of the coalition, the 13 part of the coalition, then like at the end of the day, like, you're going to have to handle this situation on your, you can be king and everything, and that's fine and dandy, but you won't be king of anything for long. But for Rowan, it puts him in a very awkward position, because the fact of the matter is, a lot of people, and Echo kind of pretends like, oh, she's like, I'm loyal to you, but it's like, even she has her reservations when it comes to Rowan. But it's like, oh, the war chiefs and everyone has reservations when it comes to you, because it's like, you're untested, you've been away from home for a while, you were kind of, you're not really it's kind of like not really much of a choice. It's like they would have followed the queen, no problem. But it's like him, they have the reservations, and it's like if he doesn't kill Sky Crew, they will look at him as weak, and that basically, no, he even says it to her like, the fact is, if I don't take out your people, I will die. I won't even have 6 months. I'll have 6 days before they kill me. So it wouldn't work out that situation because they just get rid of Rowan and then they kill Sky Crew anyway and treat Crew as well just to wipe everyone out. But then Clark does something that she ends up giving him the flame. And he's like, oh, I thought it was lost. Like, she's like, why should, okay, like, I'm super pissed at you right now because you said it was lost and everything. So why should I help you at all? And she's like, you know what me giving this to you means. Because it's like that flame, holding on to it's the last bit of Lexa she has. Like, she has her memories and everything, but there's still a little bit of Lexa there that she feels like, if she gives it away, like she won't have it anymore. She'll lose that bit of Lexa. Because remember the last one she went into Chip at the in the season 3 finale, she ended up running into Lexa, and I'm sure that makes it even harder for her. It's like that still sucks that things played out that way, and I hate that they did. It sucks, dude. It's like Clark really loved her. She even was telling Abby that, and Abby's like, I know, so. Okay, so now we have Rowan being like, Rowan decides he's going to take Sky Crew's side, and that basically he's like, I'm going to reign as your king because I have the flame. This kind of symbolizes me. So until the next true commander comes along, I will reign as king. And that basically that Sky Crew will be under his protection. So an attack against them is like an attack against all of them. So it's like they've got to work together now. Which obviously, like I said, Echo has her reservations about, which I can only assume she's going to try and screw it up in some shape or form. And then there's the whole situation about like, okay, so no one can know why Ronan is deciding to help us. Because if that happens, literally everyone will be out for themselves. It's like, oh, be survival of the fittest. It's like, no, we're not going to die. It's like, might as well take out everyone else so they have a better chance of surviving. It's just like, no one will be willing to help each other because they'd be so, it's not really taking each other out. It's just the fact that they won't bother helping each other. They won't be bothering to work together because for them, it's all about making sure they survive. It's like, who cares if everyone else does too, at that point, if they find out the truth about their circumstances. The thing is, would they believe him or not? That's the question. I get the feeling someone's going to spill the beans, and I feel like out of anyone, it's Jasper, because I feel like they're setting Jasper up to be the one that's like, no, they're trying to ruin everything. This is my way of dying, and I'm not going to let you take that away from me, type of thing. So he might spill the beans just because he's just like, Jasper's just falling apart. Like, not even just falling apart. He fell apart. He's just been broken ever since. Like, it's a sad fact. So that's where my mindset is on that. But obviously, like I said, tensions are not done. We still got to rebuild the relationships. Tree Crew are still pissed at Sky Crew about everything. And obviously, with the Ice Nation being the way it is, it's like everyone's got their eyes on everyone else, waiting for just someone just to give them an excuse to strike back. But obviously, like, tensions are running high. You got to deal with this. Trying to prevent an all-out war, but at the same time, trying to prevent a mass extinction. It's like, because we actually got a little glimpse of it at the end of the episode, because we see these two people kind of crossing the desert, and then this heat comes and burns the lady, so that's kind of what's going to happen to them. We also had the whole situation with Murphy running off with his girl because for him, it's just like, he kind of doesn't want to get caught up in this whole situation. And it's just kind of like, at first it was kind of like, he was saying like for her to come on back to his people, but now it's just kind of like, hey, let's just go off on our own. So, going off on your own kind of doesn't always help. See what happened to the Thelonious. Granted, that wasn't necessarily him being like, going out on his own willingly. It was like he was banished, but going off on your own in this world tends to kind of come back to bite everyone in the ass. So, like I said, we saw how that Thelonious situation played out. Then there's another storyline too. I can't remember her name. It was brought up last season. She's actually the next true commander. That basically, when it came to the whole Allie situation, Clark tried to get her to take over because she's actually a pretty skilled fighter and everything, but she chooses not to fight because she doesn't want to be mixed up in all this. She doesn't want to kill anymore. And even when Clark was trying to be like, oh, Lexa's got this new way and stuff like that, that vengeance is an answer, she didn't really believe Clark. At the time it kind of made sense and everything. It's like, she just didn't want to be caught up in that. She wanted the people that she was with to be left alone. I can't remember her name at this point in time, but obviously that storyline's still there, obviously, because you also had Ronan bringing up the fact is, until the next commander comes about, which, once again, could be a situation where Echo's like, there's someone else who could potentially take the flame. Let's go out, find this person, and kill them. Or maybe certain things happen. Maybe Rowan kind of gets knocked out the way and someone else kind of takes... I mean, obviously, like, her story isn't done. So I get a feeling like, obviously, she's going to pop up in some shape or form. She has to, because she's legitimately the next commander, so... In all honesty, like, I don't... Like, they say, like, science is going to help them kind of get out of this situation. I mean, granted, I don't know how they're going to go about this whole situation, stopping something like this from happening. And they have 6 months to do it. I'm just so curious to see, like, what else goes down this season. Like I said, I feel like those are obviously the big points, but it's like, you never know. There might be some surprises waiting for us. But it seems like more so than anything, that's going to be the big overall plot points. Obviously, saving the Earth, but also avoiding war with these mass tensions of everyone hating each other, but keeping their cool and everything, because it's like, okay, we're all going to work together just because we kind of have to, because of what Rowan says. Which does beg the question, who's to say there won't be someone from the outside coming in? There are other people besides them that might decide to strike. So it's like, war can loom on any front. It could be domestic, or it could be, a foreign, like, nation or something coming to strike them down or something. So it's like... it's, like I said, so many surprises. Like, it's like you might think things might, obviously with this is just like me just guessing and just thinking, like, where it could all go. And truth be told, I just have no idea. But I'm very interested to find out. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.